Twitch. How are you today? Cool. So, my name's Owen Bickford. This is my Twitch channel. Thanks for joining. Today, I'm going to be picking up where I left off. Maybe a little bit of, I think I made a little bit of progress between the previous stream and today. But I want to continue working on adding allowing synthesizers, setting up components for being able to edit the sounds you're hearing when you start playing notes on your keyboard. So that's kind of where I'm starting today. It's the kind of the preliminary plan. I did some work over the past week building up data structures for instruments for Tone.js that'll be used in, so these schemas are on the Elixir side, so they're ecto schemas, and I'm kind of unsure exactly how I want to proceed with these. I initially, I don't know, going back and forth on this, but I was thinking initially I was going to have, I was going to out the gate start with allowing users to select from one of any of the Tone.js instruments. So there's polysynth, monosynth, FM synth, AM synth. There's a few others. There's membrane synth, and a few more that I can't remember off the top of my head. And so I started kind of designing schemas to kind of reflect the structures in Tone.js and kind of mimicking those or mirroring those in the Elixir code. And I think that will be the way to go long term. But it's a little bit convoluted implementing it because, I think let me switch to the code so I can kind of show you what I was thinking, where my mind's been at, and then we'll go on from there. All right, so this is LiveShowy over here to the right. This is the code for the Amplitude Envelope. So let me just pick up envelope. So let's see, somewhere in the so this is the Tone.js documentation here. Amplitude envelope is the kind of one of the inner structures. So there are a lot of components that are kind of combined to build up an instrument. So whenever you create an instrument, one of the most common things you'll do for a synthesizer is control the attack, decay, sustain, and release. And those are the values that make up the amplitude envelope, with a couple of exceptions or with a couple of additions. So there's also, if you look into the TypeScript for this, there's also, for Tone.js, there's support for an attack curve and a release curve. So I've added those to the schema here. So I think by default, these would both be linear, but you could imagine having an attack curve that is exponential or logarithmic or sine, I'm not sure when that would be useful, but you can kind of, that would be kind of experimental stuff, I think. But typically, I think at least out the gate, we're going to be dealing with linear attack and release curves. So I don't think I'll be adding any controls to where the user could modify that. And that'll be fine. So I took a step back. I've been thinking over the past couple of days, do I really need to support multiple types of synthesizers for the very initial stages where I'm at? So I'm just trying to get an alpha version of LiveShowy so I can kind of show it to a couple people, musicians specifically, see if we're able to collaborate in real time and kind of see what the limits are. Can I collaborate with someone within the same state? Can I collaborate with someone on the in a different time zone? Can I collaborate with someone across the globe? And then what are the limitations and surprises that come whenever you try to connect two people at a wider and wider distance. But before I can do any of that, I've got to have a synthesizer that that at least two users can interact with. So that's kind of the process of what I'm doing right now, is kind of building up components, instruments, and pieces of the application that will allow two people to hear music when they play it, but also to hear music from whoever they're collaborating with. So attack envelope is one component of a synthesizer. And I've got some of this kind of built up here. So this is my user account locally. I can open up my room and I'll have a synthesizer or a synth section here. It'll list MIDI devices. So I just added this earlier today. As soon as I plug in or disconnect a MIDI device, this list will update. I can kind of mimic that here with there we go. This window's kind of sneaky. So this is like a virtual device in Apple Mac OS. So I don't have it enabled right now, so you won't see anything labeled IAC device in this list. But if you just watch, I'll toggle this on and then we'll see, well, we should have seen that happen. Hang on, let me see if there's an error. This must be like a virtual window or something. Well, this was working just a while ago. Oh, maybe it's because it's not connecting. All right, maybe the IAC device thing isn't triggering the change that it was triggering earlier, and that's a little bit confusing. Anyway, so let me try disconnecting my actual keyboard. We're still not seeing. Okay, so it did eventually change. Let me plug it back in. We should see. Yeah. Okay, so we see the Akai, Midi, or Mini, both the inputs and outputs for this one. And I think Motu 8 Pre-S Midi in, I think is what we're seeing here. Okay, so and these columns are not quite separated enough, so it is a little bit confusing about what's what. But so I do have support. If I disconnect the keyboard, it's updating again. That's interesting. Let me try toggling this again. Still nothing. Okay, well, we're going to overlook the virtual device things. That's kind of an edge case anyway. It's registering whenever I change the whenever I disconnect and reconnect the keyboard, which is the use case that I really want to be focused on anyway. It's possible that, I don't know, maybe live streaming is interfering somehow. So anyway, we'll figure that out maybe someday in the future. Anyway, so that's the device list, but really the more important, more relevant thing to what I was talking about a minute ago is the envelope, the amplitude envelope. So this will kind of control the shape of the tone that we're hearing, kind of one piece of the shape. So I've hit connect, and that will kind of turn on Tone.js in the browser. So now I can actually play notes from my synthesizer, or from my MIDI controller, I should say. And fortunately, this one actually has a Arpeggiator. So I'm going to make a couple of changes here. Then I'm going to do so now I've got an arpeggiator. I don't have to use my hands to play notes. I can change the subdivision, like whether these are quarter notes, eighth notes, triplets, 16th notes, 13th notes, 32nd notes, I should say. happening right now is I'm playing notes, and then they're being rendered by my local browser, and they're also being sent to the server. Like so, on the client, on the browser, Web Midi is the Web Midi API is picking up the devices connected. Anytime you press a note, or in this case, the Arpeggiator is pressing the note for me, it's sending those notes, like it's detecting those events. And I have a couple of callbacks that are listening for those events. Whenever the event is fired, it triggers an attack, or like when you press a key, it triggers a note on Tone.js. When you release a key, it releases the note on Tone.js. And it sends those events to the server so that other collaborators can be notified. So yeah, that kind of distribution of the notes has not been implemented yet, but that's kind of what's happening under the hood. And just to kind of focus back on the on the Amplitude Envelope, this is what this is the first thing I want to tackle today on the live stream, and then kind of figure out what else to do after that. But initially, I built like just a field set with a handful of controls. These are range inputs. So it's a slider, and these are just HTML elements you could use for a lot of different purposes. But these are only effective or like enabled whenever the synthesizer is connected. So the field set will be disabled if this is not connected. So that's why you'll see these things turn gray whenever they're not actually connected. So I did notice earlier that attack and decay are not actually, I'm not hearing any change whenever I change these sliders. I do hear a change when I adjust the sustain. So that should be like the volume or the level of the sustain. And then release is working as well. But decay, no change. Attack, no change. So it's kind of a side note there. It's a bug to be fixed maybe a little bit later. But what I want to do is I want to replace this kind of handwritten label and value and range input thing. I need to convert this. I need to upgrade this field set to a form. So this envelope would be its own form, and it can handle its own events and that kind of thing. Or like since currently this is just a functional component, so there's no event handling that would be processed by this particular component. And I think, I don't know, this may change as I build up the form using a change set, but yeah, so I think I'll leave it as a component for now and then upgrade it to a live component if it gets a little bit messy coordinating with the parent like synthesizer. This is a live component. So, and I don't necessarily know if it's a good idea or if it works well to nest live views within each other. Kind of sounds like nesting just generally adds more complexity. And that actually may not be necessary. Like I did realize earlier that I was conflating. So like as I start to understand Tone.js a little bit better and the way I want to approach designing this, the structure of this code, I've got a form currently for Synth, but it was really being used for updating the envelope. So I really need to move all of these pieces out of the form here in the synthesizer live component, and I need to basically move all of this form logic into the envelope field set. And then that might allow synthesizer to be, so there's so many different ways to go about this. So anyway, so I want to use the change set for the actual Amplitude envelope. And so that will allow me to, render errors if and constrain the values that are coming in, not only from the HTML, minimum and maximum, but also at the server. I want to make sure that we're not getting arbitrary values that are out of range. So in order to do this, I need to be able to kind of ask I need to be able to consistently get the minimum and maximum values as well as defaults for the amplitude envelope. And I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to build a module attribute with constraints or defaults or something. And that's what I'll use to populate the defaults and values down here. And then I can also use a function to return this map that I'm going to be building. So I think let's make that the first thing I do today. So this is going to be something like this. We'll have attack, which will be a map. We'll have sustain, we'll have decay, and we'll have release. For each of these, we'll have default, we'll have minimum, we'll have a maximum. I think that's all we need. Okay. And I'm going to ignore the attack and release curves for now. All right, so I'll start just moving stuff out of here. I think I need to go ahead and give this a name so I'll leave behind a bunch of empty values. I don't think I like this name long term, but that's fine. All right. That will be helpful. So now I've got a constraints map here. I can use this in, well, there we go. So I can do constraints dot attack dot default. There we go. And then here I can do constraints dot sustain dot default. That's helpful. Then I can do that for decay. This is the kind of tedious work you tune into live streams for, right? All right, so that works for the defaults. Now I can do the same for these minimum and maximum values. So this will be attack I think I'm going to split my editor so I can, I'll just do it this way. Okay, that's a little bit better. So now, let's see, I need to move this over to the left. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and knock a few of these out real fast because they're all the same. And then, let's see, I'll do that so I can get this out of the way. Number 5, okay, release 5. Decay goes up to 2, and then sustain goes up to 1. Perfect. All right, so now I can do some multi-cursor wizardry. Take that. I'm going to say at constraints dot that dot min at constraints dot paste dot max. There we go. And then the formatter beautifully like wraps everything onto new lines to make these lines easier to follow. Cool. So now we've got these constraints. These constraints are being used for the defaults and for minimum and maximum values. And I can retrieve those constraints from another module, like whenever I want to tell the form, minimum, maximum values, defaults, etc. Okay, so let's see. I need to make this a form, so I've got to make some pretty big changes here. First, I'm just going to alias the form there. This is actually not going to be a form set anymore. Form for I think this is going to be a live component, so I can use a change set. Did I have a class? I had a class here. I think I'm going to take most of this and just paste it right into this module here. All right, in that case, I've got to go ahead and make this a live component. This is now going to be data change set, which I think it's going to stick with map. And default. I need to alias LiveShowy dot tone.js dot components dot amplitude envelope. There we go. So this will be amplitude envelope dot change set. Yes. All right. So we've broken something. Oh yeah, we forgot the end to close the form tag. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here. And then let's see, I think this really should be contents. And then I think this is going to become, I need to copy that outside of here. So Pardon me. Let's move that filled set up into the form. All right, let's see. So now this is no longer going to be a form. This is going to be just a div. It already has the class that I was worried about losing, so I don't have to worry about pasting that back in here. This is now a div. I kind of wonder, does a Phoenix hook need to be attached to an input, or can it be like just any random element, like a span or something? I may deal with that later. So let me just save that and see what happens. Yeah. Closing tag for dig. Oh, there we go. Typo. Okay. So now I need to, this is going to become a, so now that this is going to be a live component, I think what first I need to do is give it an ID. I'm going to go ahead and rename this as well. This is no longer an envelope field set. It's going to be envelope form. We've got to rename that here as well. Form. Oh, I wonder if there's a shortcut for rename the file. Nice. No. Okay, maybe not. Okay, so then I think that rename didn't work because this has not been committed yet. Anyway, there we go. Envelope. Oh yeah, so I need to alias envelope form. There we go. All right, we're back into working status now. So now the synth. Yeah, all of the state is going to be moved out of the synthesizer live component. This component may be making less sense as I start pulling things out of it. Okay, so I'll kind of cross these bridges as I get to them. There's so many forks in the road. Okay, so now that this is a live component, these are going to be data instead of props. Now I can say I can grab that. I can just grab the defaults from Amplitude Envelope.get constraints. And I think I need to add another function that will take a second argument. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to take a slightly different approach here. We're going to use a built-in function for the kernel called getIn. I really love this one, so I can use a map. Then Let's see. I'm going to say keys. When is list keys? Okay, and then I may not need that anymore. Yeah, okay. So you can like, with the getN function, you can kind of traverse a deeply nested map. And then, so I can just pass whatever keys are used there. Now I can wrap this in a list. Yes, all right, so now we've got default values. And now that it's a live component, I can actually handle mounting. But I need to refresh my memory on live component mounting. So it just takes a socket. Okay, and then we have, I think this will be still an OK socket tuple. Right, okay. Socket, and then, oh, and then we can just pass in a list, a keyword list of assigns. So I don't even have to use the assign function. So then I can say change set. Actually, so I've already defined the default for the change set. Already defined the default for connected and these other pieces. I may not need mount at all. At least yet. I do think I would need it if I was like restoring a saved state, but we're not there yet. Okay. By the way, if you're watching and you find anything confusing here, or you just want to chat, throw something in the chat room. All right, so I've got my default change set. Okay, let's just make sure these values are actually changing whenever I update constraints. So I think we can try 101. And then let's refresh here. Yep, okay. Let's see. So I don't need this function anymore. I may not even need that first version. Let's try this. LiveShowy dot tone dot components dot amplitude. Okay, here's what I'll do. So I think you need to handle the case where it's empty because getN really does not want an empty list. I think that's what we're seeing here. Yeah. Okay. So if enum dot empty. Is that right? Enum. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I aliased ecto enum. Okay, yeah, so I've got to change that just a little bit. We're not gonna alias ecto enum. There we go. Okay, so if I don't provide it a list, it returns the full map of constraints. If I provided an empty list, which it has by default, same result. And then if I ask for attack, it should return all the values for attack. And then if I ask for max, it should return that value. If I ask for something that doesn't exist, I get nil. That's what I want. Okay. So that one little function works really well there. I think the schema is good. So, and by the way, I based this on the Amplitude Envelope docs here. TypeScript docs are, well, the Tone.js, I don't know if it's a TypeScript or a Tone.js thing. It is sometimes kind of hard to find what the minimum and maximum values are. So like here it says it can go from 0 to its maximum value, but I think maybe that just depends on the particular synth that's being used in. So maybe that's why they don't say specifically here. But yeah, if we scroll down further, then we do have attack time as a range of 0 to 2. These are the values for attack curve. Skip over some not important ones. We've got decay, which is 0 to 2. Let's make sure I've got the right values here. Yep, 0 to 2. Decay curve. Did I not add? Okay, I have attack, decay, and release curve. Linear, exponential. Yep, okay. And then I've got release, which is 0 to 5. Defaults at 2. And sustain, which is, this is what I'm talking about. Like, we've seen values like 0 to x for each property so far. Until we get to sustain, we have to go hunting. So I can open up the TypeScript here. Where are we at? Sustain. So now I see it's a range of 0 to 1. But this has kind of been the more frustrating piece of working with this library is the minimum, maximum values are kind of all over the place in the documentation. That's my just a little critique. Could be maybe a little bit easier to find those things. But it's fine. So let's see here. So that's the Amplitude Envelope. So now I've got my values. I'm getting my values into the live component as default values. And now, okay, so now I can start moving these things into, I can start using Surface for better components or better component usage. And by the way, I feel like I'm a little bit decaffeinated today. I may run over and grab a soda or a pop, Diet Dr. Pepper to be specific. Because I do feel like I'm a little bit tired. So anyway, surface, let's see, this is, we're going to be looking at the form. Actually, what I need is field. So I'm going to go ahead and alias some of the fields or some of the things that I want to use. I'm going to need label. I'm going to need error tag. Range input, I think, is there. Okay. Okay, so now I can start using those here. There's not a field set component here. No, okay. Maybe field context is what I need. So typically whenever I'm doing a grid layout, I want like the label, the input, like anything else to kind of be split up within separate grid cells. I think in previous templates, what I've done is I've used the field surface component, and then I've given it a class of contents. So it tells the CSS to just kind of ignore this parent element and render its children as if they were, you know, directly inside of the outer element. But I think, and I probably caught this before, but yeah, I can use field context, which will kind of do the same thing, but I won't have to use that class contents thing. So let's try this. Attack. And then now this field gets a label. It gets a range input. And it gets an error tag. This gets a class of call span full. So it goes beneath the label and the input. We'll have range input. So its value will be set, but we need to set minimum and maximum values. So here I think I can I want to use I want this all to be in one place. Constraints. Okay, that's what I want. It's a little bit repetitive here because it is going to be getting the default values. I think that's okay. That keeps the value attribute from being managed directly in these tags. So this is good though, because I can use the @constraints assign. And then here I can say attack dot minimum, dot min, and then do the same thing for max. There we go. All right, let's see. It's not going to render. Typo. There we go. Previously, I was rendering the actual value in text. I'm going to change that up here in a minute. I think we can just see the sliders and that'll be fine. I do want to debounce, so I don't want if I oh, I'm not debouncing, I'm throttling. So it's throttling at 1 millisecond so that and I can adjust this. Actually, I probably could pull this out into a module. So throttle. So now I can say throttle milliseconds, and then if I ever want to like adjust that or even optimize it a little bit, I'll have one place to update that. Okay, so let's see. We've got I think the last thing here is I'll give these ranges a class of accent primary. That way they get that kind of nice purple or violet color on the little thumb. Okay, now what's going on here? So available signs. Okay, so it really wants throttle milliseconds to be an assign. I guess we can make that an assign here as well. There we go. Okay. So yeah. All right. So now let's make this 2 columns. We're gonna make auto rows auto. This way, the error tags, they'll only take as much space horizontally as they need, and they won't necessarily have to be the same. Like those rows won't have to be the same thickness or height as the control and label row. Okay, so yeah, everything's a little bit jumbled so far. I'm gonna tidy this code a little bit and then start copying, duplicating. Okay. So now I can basically duplicate that. I can replace attack with decay. Do that again. This will be sustain. And then finally, we'll have release. Then I should be able to delete everything down here. Cool. Very good. So now we've got slightly simpler. I think the markup's a little bit better. Maybe a little bit more concise, a little bit more descriptive and flexible. We have less data hard-coded into the component itself. It's actually looking externally for those values, which is almost always a good thing. I do have one hard-coded value, but that's for a throttle, which doesn't really make sense to live elsewhere. It could live in like config, like application config later on, and that might be something that would be a smart idea if, say, like the server was under heavy load and needed to dial things down a little bit, or say like there's a lower plan, or I don't know. Like there could definitely be use cases for extracting this hard-coded throttle outside of this module and moving it into config or something, but we're not gonna optimize that super early. So anyway, so I still have a field set, but that allows me to disable all of these fields at once based on whether the synth is connected or not. Now currently these events, I guess, are they flowing? Let's see, where are they going? All right. So I have my connect button here in the synth module, the synth live component. I have a device list here as well. These are no longer properties, except connected will be a property, at least for now. So let me update that. Things are a little bit broken right now. Okay. By the way, I did a couple of test recordings before I started today, so I hope the levels are okay with the music in the background. These kind of test things. If it's too loud, just let me know. Okay, so I think really the I'm trying to decide, do I want to make, so currently this envelope form is itself a live component. I think that's fine because this thing can kind of manage its own state. I think the device list, if that's the case, then the device list could probably be a live component as well. And then I think this like synth live component has less and less utility as a live component. It may just be a more like functional component instead. So if that's the case, I think this is going to start breaking a lot of things here. So let's move that. I'm going to make this a component. Let's see how big the errors are. Okay. Yeah, it's going to keep rebooting. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the server for a minute. And let's see, let's focus on kind of okay. Just going to hide this connect button for now. I'm going to not render it. Let's see. Let's take a look at the room template. So everything's kind of being loaded in here in one big live component, aside from the user lists. and like the header section. So in the room component, or in the room live view. So there's a live view template. Do I want to render all of these components? I think connected devices needs to be separate from the synthesizer. Yeah, I think device list needs to come out of this. This needs to be separate. It's a separate concern. So that's what I'm going to do. Go ahead and start simplifying this synth component so it's really focused just on the synthesizer piece itself, like the shape of the notes, any other configuration, and responsiveness to synthesizer MIDI events. So let's see, I'm going to move device list here. I need to move the alias for that as well. All right, so now these values are gone. Device list is okay. Yeah, it's currently a functional component. If I use this in multiple places, I think I want the logic to all be self-contained. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move. Yeah, I'm going to make that a live. I think a couple of these things need to be live components. So yeah, we're going to upgrade you to a live component. So now device list is going to need an ID. And okay, so now let's see. Okay, so now let's see. So I'm moving the handler into this module so that any device changes will be handled here. That may complicate things a little bit. I need a nap or something. Today some days, I don't know about you, but I don't know if some days you feel like 100%. You can just like cut through a bunch of ideas and code real fast. I think I will have accomplished something today, but it doesn't feel like it in the moment. Let's see. So I got my device list here in the room. Now it's not going to have its own. It doesn't have its own hook, I don't think. Oh, hey, Quad Shot Kung Fu, thanks for following. Let's see. My brain hurts right now. I'm trying to think, like, where does handle web MIDI devices need to be? I think that could be within the devices live component. But we will need. I'm gonna try just using a span here. We'll see if this actually does anything. Okay, live component's gotta have a parent component or a parent element. Ooh. Okay, so let's make this a div or a dove. Let's move everything into that dove. It's probably better. Okay, so we've got some problems here. Device is not found in. Oh, okay. So there's no devices from the room live. So this is no longer going to be managed there. It's going to be internal. So this is going to be data, actually. This is also going to be data. I think. Default values. There we go. All right, what are we missing now? Web MIDI supported, not found in. This will be a prop now. Okay. Got a bunch of problems, a bunch of bugs that I've just created, but I've solved at least one. So I think Web MIDI support needs to be handled here because this is where the hook is going to be for the devices. So I think I'm going to be moving this out of there. This will be going here. Data, and then Web MIDI. Okay, that's fixed that. So now we can move this list here. Good deal. So, of course, we're seeing the error message because I'm not actually handling web MIDI support events yet. Hooks. Okay, so I need to add an ID for that hooks element. Oh, you know what? I don't even need this. I can just move this right there. There we go. Sweet. Hey, look at that. Now we've got devices rendering correctly. Let's see if I unplug and reconnect. What happens? My fingers are too sweaty. Well, okay, we've got an error here, so what's that about? Handle event. Oh, okay, so I need to add a fallback just to catch whatever I've not defined yet. Got to require logger. Okay, let's see. So now let's try plugging in a device. Cool, we didn't see any crashes. No changes either, but that's okay. Okay. So now I need this live component to be updated whenever WebMIDI supported is true or false. I don't think these events are being passed back here. I think they're being passed to the parent. Envelope. What do I need to do here? So I think toggle synth, update envelope. Is this a live? Yeah, that's gonna be live component. So update envelope actually needs to be inside of its own live component. Okay. Sweet. Now we got devices working. They're appearing and disappearing whenever they're connected or disconnected. The layout of that's not quite right. So yeah, I was kind of hacking on this a little bit earlier. Right now it's a grid with 2 columns. And the problem here is like inputs, outputs, those are fine. They're going to column 1, column 2. But then the inputs are all going to column 1. Outputs are going to column 2, but they're not starting on the next row. So maybe this needs to be 2 separate lists, which should probably be a good idea. Okay. So yeah, let's move this around just a bit. I'm gonna make this a flex call. This is going to be a heading. I think heavily had level 3. And then I'm going to move this class here. We should have a list of inputs now. Or heading. Oh, gotta alias that. There we go. Okay, so now let's see. Going to duplicate. So these are all aligned correctly. We're going to duplicate. We're going to duplicate. And then we'll do this output. Then I'm also going to do a if enum.empty. Oh, I can simplify that a little bit better. So this will be an li. And then we'll say none. Text default should be 400. Let's just say 500 for now. We'll forget about dark and light variants at the moment. Okay, that kind of works. I think I want these to be side by side though. So let's see, first I'm going to make these call span full. And here I'm going to give it a hook or a class of grid calls to gap to before. I think these need to be inside of other containers. There we go. So now we have inputs and outputs side by side. If I disconnect, reconnect, very good. Now we're seeing the Akai MPK Mini 3 at the top of the list and not skipping a row. All right. Markup's a little bit messy. Could probably be cleaner, but it's doing what I need to now. So I'm just going to think about refactoring that later. One thing I'm doing here, so the devices, whenever this component renders or re-renders, it groups the devices reported back from WebMidi, and it splits them up by type. So there's inputs and outputs, and then I'm assigning input and output here. That's actually something I could probably... I don't know, I was thinking about, should I do that on the client or should I do it on the server? I think the nature of, I think I want to keep my JavaScript as simple as possible. So I'm just basically passing along that Midi device status change to the server unchanged, so that the server, what it does here is it, if it's connected, it puts the device into the devices list. And then if it's not a connected status or a connected state, then it gets removed. So that could be pending or disconnected. But here is where I could actually, instead of putting everything into that one devices assign and then grouping them and kind of managing that later, I could update I don't know. I'm sitting here trying to optimize this, and I'm like, it's fine. Like, it's okay. So I think I'll optimize that later if I need to. So WebMidi support lives within this live component, which makes sense because WebMidi devices can only be listed if WebMidi is supported. And the rest of the synth stuff might, like if I build like an on-screen keyboard eventually, or like refactor or like reuse what I did for the original version of LiveShowy, then like I might still want the synthesizer to work even if you don't have a physical device to plug in. So, okay, so far so good. So now device list is getting all of these MIDI messages. And I think that's not exactly what I want. See that down here. So now I wonder how I pass those MIDI messages to the synth and not to the device list component. See what the docs has to say. Okay. Okay, I think here I need to have a, what do I want to call this? A Midi message target. Like I need to tell the JavaScript hook where to send these MIDI events so that they're not just showing up here in the device list. And this is going to be a I think this might be a prop. MIDI device target, string. So then I'll say required true. Separate that out a little bit. So now I should have an error. Maybe not. Let's see, synth. Okay. Let's try that. So I'm going to tell it to target the room synth. Oh, room synth is no longer a live component. So it needs to be. And then this is going to be data. And we got an error. Myself not found in. Key myself not found in music synth 25. That's funny. Maybe it's because of this. That's weird. To render. So I've got the synth module here. It says line 25. At myself is not found. This is a live component, so myself should be found actually. What is this happening? Let's see. I'm gonna stop that error. Self. What's weird is that error shows up even whenever I move this, right? Okay, let's see. Oh, is it because this is because it needs an ID? Nope. Like myself, the word myself is nowhere to be found in this module. So why is this error happening? Stateful components, Phoenix target, myself. Internal unique reference to the component instance. This is for live components. Which synthesizer is a live component? This is a weird one. Weird. Try dispatch handle message. Channel, diff, synth 24. Key myself, not found in that. WTF, what's going on here? Well, that's odd. I have to give it a myself. I think I need to take a break. It's been about 90 minutes since I started streaming. I need to kind of like jog my brain a little bit. So I'm going to take a short break. I will come back to this here in a few minutes. So stand by and I'll be back. so I'm gonna try standing for a while. Maybe that's what I need, is standing up energy. Alright, so yeah, I've been stuck, kind of perplexed about why I'm getting this issue with the myself magic assign just not being there. It's the docs. Like in the other live component, it's there. I wonder if it's maybe because I have a nested live component that's making it complicated. So now I'm kind of wondering, does this envelope component really need to be just a functional component? Like, that would be fine. I would basically convert all these data pieces to props. This would become a component, and then these handle events would be moved back into the synth component. Oh, and I'm not even sharing. So yeah, I think I may need to convert this envelope form back to a standard functional component, and let the synth and the device list be separate live components. Maybe that will fix this issue with this myself assign. So device list is actually working well. I'm going to go ahead and commit that because I just realized I've got a bunch of unsaved or uncommitted work here. What did I do here? So I updated range styles. I'm allowing IC devices. Those are the kind of virtual devices on Mac OS. Let's see, Amplitude Envelope now has a constraints map that can be queried. I have a connect button module component. What else? I've got a bunch of changes there. Oh wait, I don't want to commit this yet because I need to downgrade it to a functional component first. So let's do that. I think this is now going to be required. Just realizing this synth hook may not be the most descriptive hook name, so I may need to kind of check in, see what's going on inside the hook, and maybe rename it something a little bit more fitting. So now this is a component. All right, what's happening here? Okay, so this is going to need live component. We're going to have def mount socket do okay. Socket. And then change set. Ooh. So we need to also alias LiveShowy dot tone. Was it tone? Yeah, tone dot components dot amplitude. There we go. All right, what's happening now? We got room live mount. Oops, I need to pipe that. Is that not the issue? Missing 4 assigned to form. It's right there, change set. Let's see, change set. There we go. I don't know about you, but like, does your feel like a little bit tense whenever you see those repeating error messages? It's not that I do a little bit anyway. Okay, so we've got the amplitude. Well, the envelope form is being rendered now. It's disabled currently because we're not connected. Let's try enabling this now and see what happens. So now, let's see, toggle synth needs to be, where did it go? That must be in a device list. Oh, so this is going to need to move. Toggle synth. All right, because let's see. Attack, sustain, 8 ADSR is gone now. Okay. So got the synth envelope. Envelope form as a component. So we actually do need those attributes to be, or properties to be passed back here. So let me do this. Okay. This will be data. This is not going to have defaults anymore, I don't think. Synth 59. Define assign chain set. Okay, maybe that needs to be here. Okay, so I'm kind of undoing all the work I did just a few minutes ago, but it's okay. So I'm going to take these. Okay, so let's see. Option return from room live mount. Chain set. So I'm going to rename this to current user synth. Because I think if I fast forward a little bit into the future, I think I'm going to have at least, so I'm going to have one synth for each user that connects, in the early days at least. And so the first one that shows up here should be for the current user, whoever's like connected to this particular browser. And then additional synths will be rendered, but those will have an ID for like the user ID for each of those. So anyway, that's a quick aside on that. But what's happening here? We got mount. Okay, so maybe this does really need to be assign. Oh, and I need a data chain set, which I think we'll call it a struct or a map would be fine. Okay. Now, really, that should probably be labeled as envelope chain set, because we're going to have, if I'm using separate forms for each of the components that are being built into a synth. There's going to be like the amplitude envelope, which is the first thing we have here. There may be multiple envelopes. So if you have a synthesizer with multiple oscillators, there could be an envelope for each one potentially. There could be like a kind of parent or like global envelope for the attack or for the amplitude. And then there can also be envelopes for filters. So there's a whole lot of components that have to be built up for this. It's starting to feel like it's going to take longer than I expected. Maybe if a week or two goes by and I've got a little bit less like mental fog, then it'll be easier to work through this. But yeah, I think I'm going to need probably multiple change sets within a synthesizer for like different components that are going to be, individual forms that handle like separate responsibilities. Okay. So then I need to look for change set elsewhere and probably update that. Okay, cool. So now we're rendering again. We are getting this error. No DOM ID for hook synth. Where is that hook? Ooh, I'm lost. Let's see. Synth? Where are you at? Envelope form. That's where it is. Okay. So now let's take a look at that synth hook and see exactly what it does. So it mounts the tone.js stuff. Okay, so this actually really needs to be in the parent synth live view. So we're going to move it there. Will this work? Yay, all right. So now device list is still getting those messages. I think now I can maybe control where they're going and or ignore them in the device list. Let's see. First of all, is this making any change here? Unknown event room live. Update. Okay, so update envelope. We need to prop here. This will be say call it a target. I don't know what this is, so I think I'm going to call it any. I think it's a PID. Let's just try that. I think it's a PID. target, and then in here, target will be myself, which is the synth parent. Okay, so now update envelope should be handled by synth, if that's where the handler is. Yep, update envelope. Okay, so now whenever I make changes here, they're still going back to the room live. Update envelope. Phoenix target. What did it say? Phoenix target. Oh, it's not a PID, it's the ID of the parent element. So let's call this a string, and then I think this will be ID. That's not doing it either. Oh, probably needs to be hashtag. Maybe. Okay. Current user synth is the live component. That's the ID we're passing to the form as the Phoenix target. Oh, right. This is probably not the right syntax for Surface. So let's see, form. This probably goes into the ops. Directions. Okay, yep, I think that's where it goes. All right, let's see what happens now. Oh, well, we have a big old nasty error. Match the right-hand side value of token, target, amplitude, da, da, da. Okay, so now the problem seems to be we're not handling update envelope correctly. Yeah, okay. Maybe that's what it needs. Amplitude envelope. Oh, typo. Amplitude envelope is not. It's not how you spell that. Okay, very good. Now I did notice that I need to add a step to each of these. So I have a lot more granularity. There we go. So now it's not snapping, to like one full integer value. Very good. That's weird though. Maybe they're not being assigned correctly. Tax sustain. This feels messy too. Like maybe this should just be one envelope change set. Yeah, I think I'm overcomplicating it here. I'm gonna sit down though. Okay, so now I don't think I actually need these values, right? Right, okay, so what I need to do, I think, so I'm gonna remove these here, because these are just gonna be within the change set. Yeah. Okay, and then, so far so good. So then whenever the envelope is updated, we've got to run that through a change set. So in that case, that can go away, and then this becomes a lot simpler. All right, so what's going on with this button now? So connected. All right, because I don't have those assigns anymore. So now I will be getting the just need to see. I think let's see. Inspect envelope change set. I think it's going to be under data. And I think I would just pass in envelope change set dot data, right? So envelope is going to be, I'm going to be merging map.merge into envelope change set.data. I will merge in the changes. Then here, I think I can just take envelope. Nope. JSON encoder not implemented for. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to pipe this. So this is going to be map from struct. There we go. Okay, so it's updating the synth envelope. I want to see what those values are. Very good. Okay, so whenever I change the attack, then disconnect and reconnect, I see the same value before and after for the attack, which is what I want. Okay, very good. Let's see. So I think this envelope form is pretty good now. All of the data we need is inside the change set, so I don't have these separate data and property points for attack, decay, sustain, and release. Those are just built into the change set, so that's cleaned up things quite a bit. And that's finally getting around to what I said a couple hours ago, that I wanted to have this form backed by a change set. So it's working a little bit better now. Okay, what next? So we're toggling the synth. Whenever I update these things, the numbers change, although they're showing up as strings. So I kind of wonder if I need to parse those as floats. Yeah, I see. So this will be, okay, I need to do this map merge thing again. So I'm going to copy, I'm going to move that into a function. Merge chain set data. That's going to be a private function. Here we go. This will be chain set changes. There we go. Okay. Now here we're going to have think that will give us integers there, or floats. There we go. Now things are looking, if you look at the developer tools down there, these are showing up as floats. They were previously strings. I don't know if that has any impact on... It's still not changing the shape. Except for the sustain and release. Fairly pleasant sounding in the background. It's working well enough. Actually, I should have that running in the background. And then I can just turn it on and off here. There we go. All right. The only thing is it's generating a lot of messages on the device list. What Midi? So yeah, let me commit some things and then figure out what I want to do next. So first of all, I don't need to log these now. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and commit this add envelope form. Ooh, that's a big one. I need to move the synth header out of the synth component. I was thinking about this earlier, like, does it make sense to have headings inside of the components or outside of the components? I think I've settled on moving headers outside of the components, just because, like, if I'm kind of building up a lot of components that kind of need to fit nicely and tightly together, the heading is not really a concern of all the controls within the component. It's just more of a layout concern. So I hope this makes sense anyway. Okay. Device list and synth components. Okay, so removed envelope form fields here. Yeah, Okay, we'll stick with that. So now let's take a look at device list. So this is where the Phoenix hook for handle web MIDI devices gets called, and that's why these messages are showing up here. So where is this? This is in device list. So now I need to handle this prop for MIDI message target. Okay, and then target. Okay, so now that should give me an error. Okay, yeah, I already did that. Okay. Let's see, where else is that showing up? Just those two places. Okay, that's good. So now I can go into the MIDI module or the MIDI JavaScript, and on MIDI message, I can update this. I think I need to take a look at the live view, console log. I'm going to stop the Arpeggiator because that's going to create a bunch of noise. Live view, I think data is going to be where the target MIDI. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So within, so there's going to be live view dot l dot data set dot MIDI message target. Okay, so that needs to be passed into this function here, target, handle MIDI message. We'll need a target. That's in the synth module. So I guess the question is like, when is that being pushed? Oh, here we go. There we go. So now these can be optionally changed or chained. Now I don't need to pass target here. Or there, or anywhere. Sweet. So now, thanks for bearing with me while I figure this out, if you're bearing with me. But so now whenever I use this component, this synth component, I can tell it, or like the device list target, I should say. So this component, I can give it a Midi message target. So like this component is responsible for basically initializing web Midi through the browser. And so that's where these Midi message events come from. And by default, it was passing those up to the component where it was, being rendered from. And in this case, I want those to be routed somewhere else. So now I've given the ID for the actual synth element, and now those can be passed to that target, or if there is no target there, if it's a falsy value, it will default to the current LiveView elements ID. So that works. I think I'm going to go ahead and commit this. Things are shaping up a little bit better than I was expecting for maybe an hour. I do feel a little bit better than I did as well. So maybe the last thing I'll do is I'll try to tackle this attack and decay envelope, not changing anything. Yeah, we're not hearing any difference there. So that could be a result of using the wrong synth. So let's take a look at the synth. So I'm using polysynth by default. So this allows me to play more than one note at once. Let's take a look at polysynth in the Tone.js docs. So we have polysynth right here. So the constructor, I think polysynth options. Okay. This, I don't know, maybe if you work in TypeScript or a highly typed language, maybe this is a little bit easier to follow, but not a fan of that. And like I'll see this sometimes in the docs, it'll say like the types available for this particular thing are like a subset of this other type. And then you're clicking around, like right here, it's partial voice options is a type where it's recursive partial, or it's omitting monophonic options from the voice options. Oh man, that makes my brain hurt. So yeah, partial voice options. Not entirely sure what my options are in here. Voice options. Max polyphony. So I don't know what. So envelope, and I know this has worked before, so I don't think the JavaScript is necessarily wrong. Because it takes the attack, decay, sustain, and release. Those are being set as the envelope. Let's take a look at, maybe it'll be clear if we look at just synth or maybe monosynth. Portamento. Okay, here's an idea. I'm going to just change this to a mono synth or just a synth. And then we'll see if suddenly the attack and decay start changing. All right, nope, we're going to do mono synth, I think. That's not helping at all. So let's go back to polysynth. So Windows synth. Okay, so whenever we toggle the synth on, we're doing two things. So we're starting the synth so that assigns a new polysynth to the window. Oh yeah, I can actually look at that. So now I've got synth in the window. Synth dot, we should have some options here. So we're seeing the attack actually change whenever I change the slider here. We should see the same thing for decay. Yeah, decay is down to 0.2 or 0.02, and then back up to 153 or 1.53. I'm perplexed. Okay, but maybe there's something else we can do here. So we've got context. Okay, so this is actually a triangle sound wave. So I've got a lot more control. Well, I've got a lot more components to build so I can control the synthesizer, like as far as like detune and things like that. Kind of wonder if I'm holding notes and I change the synth set. What detune? This needs to be an object, so I'll do detune 0. So that won't change anything. But now I can do okay, that's cool. I forget, portamento, is that... How do you set portamento? Maybe you don't do that on the synth? Glide time between notes in seconds? Oh, so that needs to be... say 0.5. Now, how do we set portamento? That's the question. see if that changes anything. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've been passing the volume. Well, not. It starts with a volume of -6. Maybe I need to set this over here. Let's try window.synth. Let's set volume. There we go. I don't know. It still sounds like it's not actually. Options. It says it's -6. Do you believe it? Yikes. That's weird. Let me take a look quickly here. So polysynth actually is two things. It is the first argument when you construct it. These things are optional, so that's what makes it a little bit confusing. We have a voice, which is the constructor of the voices, and we have the options. Maybe that's why this wasn't actually working. So say voice options. Tone dot monophonic. Let's see. I have a feeling that's not going to work at all. Yeah, so that's not real. Voice constructor of the voices. What does that even mean? What's a voice? I do wish there were a few more examples in Tone.js, especially for construction, because I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be able to pass in here. Voice constructor is a voice. tone dot what? What do we have here? Let's see, console log window.synth dot, is it envelope? Options, envelope, there we go. So weird. Envelope is changing. We're just not hearing the changes. See, first of all, can I simplify this? If I start synth and then I do envelope here, I may not need to do, yeah, I may not need this. Then I should be able to take that. Okay, so I've got the envelope and then there we go. No, we don't. Reading set. Huh. course. Okay, so this is not really envelope. This is more like a data.detail, and then data.detail. Is that really? So then what I can do here is volume. Oh, volume. -6. It almost seems like it's not even respecting the volume that I'm putting in here. Welp, 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 welp. I think I'm going to call it a day here in just a few minutes. I don't know. At this point, I kind of almost wonder if like just restarting the computer is going to fix this particular problem, because the numbers are there. They're changing whenever I adjust the slider. But the attack and the decay make no change to the sound that we hear, although sustain and release do make a change, with the change that we would expect to hear. Let's see, decay. I'll make sure my ranges are right. Oh, I wonder if does this need to be a tone amplitude envelope? object? Like, does it really have to be? No, it doesn't, because I've seen it. Seen examples where you just create the synth with these options. Oh no, I think I do. I do see one problem though. So options. So with monosynth, okay, so we have oscillator type square. Let's see. I didn't change anything either. Yeah, I think I'm just confused about exactly how to get this envelope to work. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. It's been 3 hours since I started streaming. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a little bit wiped out. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I do appreciate if you've been watching, and if you're interested in what I'm doing here, that's really cool. And I look forward to hopefully making more progress in the next week or two. And we'll kind of play that by ear. If you want to catch up with me going forward, you can find me on Twitter. My handle is @OwenBickford. I did set up continuous improvement or integration, so CI and CD, continuous integration and delivery. So now whenever I do finish a pull request and get everything merged back in, it triggers a test automatically. It does that on the PR, but it also reruns tests whenever anything's merged into the main branch. And if all those tests are successful, it will deploy everything automatically, which is really cool. It means I don't have to sit there and kind of babysit the pipeline and wait for things and then manually deploy it. It just happens automatically. So anyway, I look forward to having more fun next week, hopefully being more awake and getting a little bit more done. But again, thanks for sticking around.